Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie review. I have to say, this movie is really a step down from the first one. Psych!
Welcome back, sir.
There's no way that I would say that this is the best movie of the year. Best. Nothing even comes close in terms of everything that this movie gave me. It is literally the best movie of the year. I won't ever change my opinion of that. I don't know who said or who's been saying that this movie is a step down from the first movie, because, oh my god, not only does it build on the first movie, it gives us bars we didn't even knew that this type of art form could create. It is so legendary. There's so much here that I want to unpack and talk about. But firstly, I just want to say that I watch movies all the time. It's literally what I do. I watch movies and TV series, sometimes even before they come out. But the point is, that's my life, right? And from all of that, from everything that I've seen this year, this is one of my favorite that I've watched overall. I'm talking top 5 for the entire year, as well as the best film that I've seen for the year. That's my opinion. That's what I take away from this, and that's what I love. This movie is so healing. Just losing what you lose and still finding the serenity in that. And just the beauty of honoring the grieving process. My heart is unburdened. Just getting to this moment in the movie, the moment that takes your breath away, reaches your soul, grips your heart, and like never lets it go. Angela Bassett's pained voice here reverberates down to your soul. I never ever fell in love with villains before, but then the Black Panther movies gave us these two sexy alpha male antagonists, Killmonger and Namor, that just dominate every scene that they're in, until the only worldview you want to see is theirs. Angela Bassett gave one of the most impactful, empowering opening scenes of a movie I've ever seen. And she just opened that part or that scene so strong, firm, and just secure. It gave me goosebumps on goosebumps, and for the first time, she made the world of these greedy humans that just keep demanding things in these little committees of theirs, and like told them to shut the hell up and tuck their tails between their legs. It was so cool. That is why she's the Queen Mother. Like T'Chaka, he was diplomatic and very political. T'Challa was more, he just made decisions. He was like, that kind of dude. But with her, it was like she makes decisions. She's representing that belief of hers that Wakanda is the strongest nation on earth. And the way that she did that scene was it's just seared into my brain because it's so cool. And I dig it because it's like, even though Wakanda is in this like very precarious state and they may appear vulnerable because they don't have, both their kings died in a very short space of time, and they have the most coveted resource on the planet, but and they have all these outreach areas that are kind of like exposed, but she just targeted all those weaknesses and fortified it in one fell swoop. It was so cool. And that's one of the things that they're showing in this movie, is how desperate these different countries and especially the US is for vibranium. So I don't know who's been saying that Wakanda Forever is a step down from the first movie. That is insanity to me. I don't understand it at all. Either it's like clout, jumping for the clout, or trying to piss people off, or just trying to get views. I don't know what the case is. But it just seems like an unequivalent jab for no reason. This movie is absolutely amazing, and I'm only taking away this so strongly because of how it made me feel. That's what I care about at the end of the day, is how the movie made me feel. And I thoroughly enjoyed it so much. This is like one of the best theater experiences I've had all year. And mostly because I got to go in the morning at around 9 a.m. when like no one was there. It was a VIP theater. The chairs were reclining. I had a little table to the corner to put my popcorn and drink. It was just like luxury and relaxation and chilling to watch one of the best movie of the year. But just in that, this movie was so healing for me personally because it deals with grief in such a profound way throughout the film, and whew, it just gives you this peace that I never knew I needed. It shows different ways to process grief, even if you're the most jaded person or you're into scientific based logic, as well as the traditional cultural importance of letting go and grieving rituals. All of those come to play in just one movie. And just, wow, man, it takes my breath away, honestly, to see this in a movie and to see this kind of portrayals and epic, Oscar-worthy performances. Angela Bassett, especially, she has got to win an Oscar for this. Without a doubt, it has to be so because she just delivered such a strong, intense performance here. So, I want to go into some spoilers now, so I'm just letting you know. If you haven't watched the movie, jump off right now. I'll even give you a moment. Have you gone? Okay, cool. So, spoilers ahead, just saying it again. But yeah, so one of the things I want to talk about is how in the first movie we were introduced to Wakanda, this vibrant, culturally dynamic but technologically advanced civilization, African civilization, black cultural civilization that just dominates in one of the most visually beautiful and stunning places on earth that you get to see. That's what the first movie brought us, right? Now, in this movie, on the other hand, you have the Talukan. And the Talukan are this ancient Mayan originated civilization, from Mesopotamian eras that evolved into an undersea city that's like Atlantis. And we get introduced to that in this movie. I love that parallel of just getting introduced to these two absolutely unbelievable civilizations. And obviously the key factor to each one is that they both evolved with vibranium. Right? So the spoiler here is that the Talukan were the ones that had a heart-shaped herb from the sea. And therefore they inherited sea-like abilities to breathe underwater, strength, accelerating healing abilities, all of these kinds of things that it brought to them. And in the opposite to Black Panther, which kind of hoarded, but in a majestic and cultural kind of way, kept the hub to like one Black Panther warrior. In this sense, their whole civilization has basically been bred around the heart-shaped herb, but the undersea version. And to see the Talukan being shown and the people that are affectionate, joyful, children playing under the sea, a city that's dynamic and technologically advanced too, stunning to look at. All these elements that we saw in Wakanda, in Wakanda, in Africa, you see now in this. And I just have to say, as a dude with brown skin, to see this kind of representation. I mean, it represents so many of us: Latino, Hispanic, Mexican, Spanish, Indian, even Native American. All these people of brown skin got represented with this culture, because just like how I feel like Africans felt when they saw Wakanda as this potential of what their society could achieve if they had a resource like this that could give them technological advances that are beyond even a lot of understandings. It's the same with the Talokan, is that you get to see, or we get to kind of see, our representation in a culture that is vastly superior in many ways to other nations around the world in this universe. And it's just so epic to see. That's one of the things I truly loved about this movie, was just to see those parallels, to see this kind of representation. And in Namor, Kukulukan, and Namor, or Kukulukan as he's called, it's just so awesome to see a leader like this for these kinds of people, that wants to do what's best for them, but also wants to lead his people and make sure that they prosper and survive even beyond him. And Tena Huerta just absolutely dominates in this movie, man. He steals every scene that he's in. What a stunningly complex yet mysterious yet awesomely badass character they created, and that he embodied in his performance. And the best part is, we haven't even seen the extent of Talokan yet, because they showed that they have, yes, technology, they've developed things, they're hard to detect, let's put it that way, because I think they pride or strive themselves to be more invisible than even Wakanda. And then they have technology that we haven't seen yet, right? It wasn't explored that much, in the sense that, as the same as Black Panther, the technology was explored, but not as much. What I would have liked to seen was, like a whole lab or wherever they developed this technology, and to see different variations. But in the movie, Shuri was only there for a short second. So I'm sure if she was there longer, she would have tried to figure out what kind of cool things they can do. But like, a lot of their power comes from through currents, and generating even a strong current to get to the city. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens, and if vibranium is used. It almost seems magical the way they do it. But right, magic is just science we don't understand yet. Namor, or Namor as everybody tries to call him, but in the movie it's Namor, and he's also called Kukulakan. And because of that, the story is so expansive and just so fleshed out. It's been such a long time since we've had an antagonist like this, that his whole story is just fleshed out, not in a fast-paced way, not even in a kind of monologue way. Even though we got a monologue from him about his past, it didn't feel that way. It felt so tranquil into the story. Like, his past, his truth needed to be seen. And because of that, his storyline is so dynamic, so intricate and complex at the same time, because you want to root for this guy, the way that he protects his people, the way that he's been like a god to them. But at the same time, you also want to like slap him upside the head and be like, dude, why do you want to take over the whole world? You have such a cool, awesome city right now. It should be enough. You should be enjoying it and reveling in it. And yes, humans are destroying the earth at a horrible rate. And when or if it becomes a horrible problem, then maybe. But at the same time, it's like, be like Wakanda. You guys have the power. You don't have to go out now and take over the surface world. But speaking of that, that's where the parallels come in. And there's a lot of parallels between T'Challa's story and Shuri's story. Parallels like her out for revenge, him out for revenge, the main bad guy wanting to protect his people. Killmonger wanted to protect his people that were out there in the world, not just Wakanda people. In the same sense, Namor just wants to protect his people, but he also wants to make sure that the slavers, the other nations, bow to them so that his people never have to be slaved, never have to have their resource taken or their lives taken, just so that greedy people can get their hands on vibranium. I really love the city of Talukan, and I wish we could see more of it and just see more of their culture and their people. It's just too cool, man. And it's just, I personally love characters that can live underwater because I find it so tranquil, so peaceful, so quiet under there in the ocean that I would just love to be them. And it's just me sitting here waiting for Aquaman and Namor to take me to their undersea cities so that I can live there with them, man, forever. All right, so let's talk spoilers. The first major one, and obviously I think a lot of people already know this, it just hasn't been confirmed, but you more or less know or have a very good sneaking suspicion on who the new Black Panther is. It's drumroll, Shuri. I know, but hey, it's her. She's the one that becomes the Black Panther. There wasn't any real doubt. There wasn't really much of any other kind of candidate, unless T'Challa had like some kind of, or even T'Chaka had like some kind of illegitimate kid that could come out and become an heir. But like it was always supposed to be meant for her, after, especially in the wake of the death of her brother, because she's like the reigning person left to take the throne. And one of the things I dig about them, or how the story evolved into Shuri becoming the Black Panther, was that it wasn't rushed and it wasn't overlooked in the sense that it would just be some kind of gender bend Black Panther. It was like she needed, or the character needed, to feel these incredibly horrid experiences and just losing the people that you were closest to, seeking revenge, but having all that development happen truly makes you feel like Shuri evolved into a new Black Panther. And not only did she recreate the hardship from nothing again, but she took it and she became Black Panther. That was like she earned the mantle. She did like Hercules 12 or unbelievable feats of strength and became the Black Panther, was gifted by the gods, was glory to Bast, was gifted by the gods this incredible power. And yes, when she fights Namor, it's unmatched. He is obviously a centuries-old warrior. He's got the upper hand on her, even weaker in his weakened state, or whatever the case was in that. So it didn't even feel like any character was nerfed. It felt like she used her strengths to win the battle, and he used his strengths to win the battle. And let's just stop there about the fight. But yeah, that was kind of it. And again, there's parallels there between T'Challa, Killmonger, M'Baku, and Shuri, and Namor. It's like all these characters have parallels in that they challenge the throne, they want their own worldview seen. And then you have the weird hero character that even doubts their mission to stop this bad dude, but eventually has to for the protection of their people and because they're also led by revenge. So let's talk about Angela Bassett as Ramonda, the Queen Mother. Let's talk about her. When I first saw her with the white hair that she has streaking down, I was so enamored because I was like, this is what a true portrayal of Storm could look like. Aurora Monroe could look like. If they could cast a character that has Ramonda's spirit and her presence, and then make that person Storm in the story, I would have even loved a dynamic where, even if it's now the multiverse or another verse where T'Challa meets Storm and they have a kid together, because that would be such a cool storyline. I want to see that, as Storm and T'Challa like ruling Wakanda, because they're the ultimate king and queen, I think, of African culture. and representation. And they're just a powerhouse. And imagine their kid. Because that's what I want for the MCU. I'm tired of these stories that come only from comic books. And I'm glad that they're creating new dynamics to it, like with Thor and his daughter as well now, who's almost like a cosmic entity. I really love that part of the story, and I want more of that. I want kids of awesome heroes that are going to become the new next Avengers or something. That's my next goal, that's my next wish for the MCU and all the phases, to get those kinds of kids. But yeah, so with Ramonda, she reminded me of that. She had that presence of Storm, that like ethereal mysticism. And I always felt like she could do magic the way that the Queen Mother talked, you know? And she just has this cadence in her voice that like demands to be listened to. You know, you're not going to turn away from it. You're not going to even try to overly argue with it. Because when she says something, it just reverberates through you. You're like, whoa. Most of the time you're like, whoa. The other times you're like, whoa. And I talked about that opening scene and how decisive she was, and the presence again that she exhibited to the entire world to basically shut them up because they were just being greedy humans that wanted Wakanda's resource. And she was so strong and impactful as a queen. And yes, when the part came when Okoye had hurt her or failed in her mission, that's when the queen showed a side to herself that was maybe toxic and problematic. Like, she had lost her daughter, so I get it. She's grief-stricken. And that was when you get that scene that just drills into your soul and leaves you with chills when she says, "I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world. Have I not given enough?" And you feel that, you truly feel that. But because of that grief, she does something unfair to Okoye, but at the same time, you can also see it from her vulnerable point. And she makes it clear because she talks about how Okoye and the other Dora Milaje stood by Killmonger when he had killed her son and taken over the kingdom. So it also feels like she's been holding that one in against Okoye also. So the spoiler here is that Ramonda dies. The Queen Mother unfortunately dies in this one, so Shuri can get her revenge arc going on. And in that, it's the parallel of how T'Chaka died and how he went on his vengeance quest against somebody who felt slighted by people and needed to take out his vengeance on the world, demoralize the people that he was attacking. So he did that with Wakanda. He demoralized them because he attacked them out of nowhere just to show strength and just to show what they're capable of. And his attack led to the death of Ramonda while she was saving Riri Williams' Ironheart. So this sucked because I don't think Shuri was ready or is ready to be queen. And I get that it's the same like T'Challa, who wasn't ready to be king. So maybe she'll grow into it. I just loved Angela Bassett and Ramonda as the queen, man. She just totally, again, dominated as much as Namor dominated in this movie. They stole scenes from everybody when they were in these scenes. And then another parallel is that Shuri goes after the character for revenge for killing her mother. And okay, here's the thing. In a movie or in any kind of superhero thing, if the superhero starts talking to somebody about killing somebody or about revenge and that killing is the end goal, it's kind of never ever really gonna happen. It's very rare to happen. Killing, especially for a hero, usually and only happens in a snap. You know, like some kind of unprecedented moment where the hero just snaps and kills somebody. So it's not ever really premeditated, right? It's more like provoked. And this also, like No Way Home. Is it No Way Home or yeah, Far From Home, No Way Home, right? It's No Way Home. So just like in No Way Home, where Peter lost his aunt and he was going after the villain because he wanted to kill him, and he had all that frustration and vengeance in his heart. At the end, he didn't do it, right? People were there to grasp his heart and be like, yo, don't kill. And it's the same for Shuri. She wants to get her revenge on. She gets down to it and she realizes that she doesn't want it that much. And again, you get the flashback of the Talokan and the beautiful city and the people, the innocent people there too. And Shuri realizes that even a bad ruler can still make good decisions, and he still wants to protect his people so they can still find a way to coincide with each other that doesn't involve war. M'Baku is such a cool character, and I just love saying that. M'Baku. M'Baku. I just love the way that M'Baku. M'Baku. I just love the way they say that. But yeah, M'Baku and the Jabari are so cool. I love him. He's so prominent in this movie, but he's more sympathetic and empathic in this movie, which is really cool. And one of the things he says is glory to Hanuman. I don't get that. I don't know where that came up from. But like, what, Indians somehow in Africa? And the Jabari learned about Hanuman from him? Because Hanuman is like a Hindu god that's mostly depicted as anthropomorphic, looking like an ape or, a monkey. So it's interesting how Jabari in African culture is now saying glory to Hanuman. I've tried to search online why they made that decision, but it doesn't really show. Something about how they didn't want it to be about Man-Ape, which is the gorilla god that they apparently worship. So they changed it to Hanuman. But still, it's like, how does the Hanuman fit in this world? Does that mean that in the MCU, Hanuman is not a Hindu god, but an African white gorilla god or something? Because that's who they worship? So yeah, that part is really interesting. What are your theories on that? Oh, and another thing. I mean, I know the world is so hard up for vibranium right now that they want to do everything and anything to get their hands on it. But one of the things I've noticed and in the movie that I worry about, and I don't know why nobody else worries about it, but it's like, what happens to the resources that the Wakandans use in these like brawling fights in and around the world? Like in the first movie, it was Ulysses Claw where they sent cars, because Shuri says she had sent cars ahead of them. Are they vibranium cars or whatever the case is? They sent cars ahead of the time. They had those little bead thingies that fit on top of the cars that control them. What happens to those things? I mean, even in the opening shot for the first movie, when T'Challa rocks down to try to get Nakia, he throws those little beads onto the cars that makes them stop. What happens to those things? Aren't those vibranium? And does the government not collect those and they're trying to reverse engineer them or use them in the future because they're vibranium? Like, that's just something that plays on my mind. What happens to all those resources that they used in the field? In this movie, it was a case of like when Nakia searching for Shuri and for Talokan, she had like this roaming vehicle, vibranium made vehicle that could go underwater and everything and float. And that thing carried them to the surface, but then it closed up and zoomed back into the ocean. So does it go chill in the ocean somewhere until the Wakandans need it or what? Like, where does those resources go? Most of the time I'm just wondering, does the government pick up all these vibranium offshoots that the Wakandans use in the field when they go out of Wakanda? And are they keeping it somewhere and studying it? Or is it really just lost to them that they don't figure out that they can get their hands on this stuff? So, Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, how is she in this movie? She is awesome and hilariously funny. And at the same time, super smart. And I love how she has her own workshop that is just like tricked out to the T's with multiple monitor screens, encryption coded laptop, designs and schematics for things. She even built a Iron Man suit beta version, let's call it that. The same way that Iron Man built his, the same way that Tony Stark built one in the desert. She built a similar one that was like an exosuit, more or less, that helped her fly and stuff like that. So yes, she is awesomely smart and not toned down because of that. And I love it. And then she creates a suit in Shuri's lab that she uses that people are joking about. It looks like a Power Ranger or something out of, one of these Roblox movies or Metabot movies, if you remember from that time, that 90s Sagas cartoon. It kind of looks like that. But I dig it. I mean, it was what she could make in that space, and it was pretty cool. But it would be nice if she had more pulse blasters or pulsar cannons instead of just something that looks like more war machine kind of thing, like a Gatling gun, than a sleek Iron Man pulsar ray or something. Also, at the end of the movie, it's like saying that she's going home now and she has to hand back in the suit. But the one thing that I'm like, dude, how do you go to Wakanda, right? They basically have the lab of your dreams, could build literally anything your brilliant mind could think of, and then still want to go back home. Like, why? Yes, go home like an exchange student or boarding school where you go home for the weekend, but like obviously come back and want to work full time in Wakanda. I don't even know why she didn't even try to have that conversation with them. Because obviously they would want to recruit her. Now that Shuri's becoming queen, she can take over in the lab space with her intelligence. And again, keeping the suit. Although from what I'm reading here, it's kind of seeming like they have the intention of making this like T'Challa's and Killmonger's relationship, which is interesting because they had an antagonistic relationship. Like both had very different worldviews, and they couldn't really vibe too much because of that. So this might lead down the road where their worldviews come crashing together and they're not going to get along because of that. So that's going to be interesting to see if Riri now decides to take on Shuri as the Black Panther. If something happens or some kind of antagonistic story comes along. So in one of the scenes, the one where you can see there's fire erupts in like diagonal routes in the scene in like this catacomb place that's filled with water, right? That scene there, you should definitely know which one I'm talking about. But that's a scene where Shuri takes on this 3D printed heart-shaped herb and she goes into the ancestral plane hoping to see her mom who has recently passed, but instead sees, guess who? Eric freaking Killmonger, bro. Killmonger is back. I love that so much because it really sucked for me when he had to go in the first movie because he was just so dynamic, and I wish he had been kept prisoner or something so that he could somehow be an anti-hero and still fight for Wakanda, but keep his distance. I would have just loved that storyline. But anyway, he's the one that Shuri sees, which is just a whole change to the whole ancestral pain kind of dynamic. Because you usually see the person you're connected to the closest, which means she was connected to Killmonger in that moment. But yeah, the thing that I noticed about the scene is that his hair has changed, and it's still so freaking cool. It's as cool as how he made the first hair cool. So that means there's gonna be a lot of dudes that are gonna now get this new Killmonger look, this new Killmonger hair that's basically like what do they call it? A man bun, right? A man bun of braids, a man bun of black braid hair. That's kind of the variation to Killmonger's hair that has happened. And yeah, dudes are definitely gonna copy it. I have no doubt. Same way that they copied his first hairstyle. That was like the Killmonger hairstyle. This is the new Killmonger hairstyle. Kokolo Khan is just too epic in this movie. The king of the Talukan, an ancient civilization of underwater dwelling people, Tena Huerta as Namor, is just so cool, dynamic, badass, vicious, cold-hearted, bloodthirsty, but also humble to his people, a great leader and a caring leader. And one of the cool things about how Tena Huerta did this performance was that you could feel his age somehow. Like you could feel that this character that he's playing is ancient because of how patient he is with the way that he talks about war. Even it's not like aggravated or insulting to anybody's way of life. It's more like factual, like he has seen the way the world is worked. Now he's ready to change it, but he knows it's going to take time and he's ready for that patience. That's just so hard for a character to do with an immortal character or an almost ageless character. With Thor, you really don't see it because he's so childish. So it's kind of like he's rarely got like wisdom of living 2,500 years or whatever the case is. But with Namor, you can feel it. And even at the end of the movie, where Namora, who is called Namora, she comes to him and she's like, "How could you yield, or how could you yield to the Wakandans?" And he tells her, and it's like from experience. He's like, Shuri is one of the strongest people on the planet right now, of the strongest nation on Earth, but she has no allies. And she's gonna feel like that when the world comes for that resource, when they come for vibranium, and she's gonna need an ally, which is where they come in. And I don't think if it's even about um, taking the Wakandans anymore. I think he's kind of smitten even because there was a bit of a ship thing going on there and chemistry thing going on there when he took Shuri to the underwater city. I don't know if I could feel that, or I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that, but I definitely ship it, especially if he's going to be a redeemable character and not just someone that's going to do hateful things to Wakanda. But again, I kind of feel like he's got that aging wisdom, that wisdom to know what's right for a king and when to act and when not to act. Yes, his people like Atuma or Namora could, push back at him or try to do a coup because he's, yielding to the Wakandans and he's allying himself with the Wakandans. I still believe that he's the ultimate ruler. He's like the anti-hero ruler that's still gonna come and be allied with Shuri and actually be an asset to her instead of being a villain per se throughout the thing. So that's gonna be really cool to see. I definitely ship them. If that's a thing, I ship Shuri and Namor. Okoye, Dane Guerrera is just absolutely phenomenally amazing, man. Ever since The Walking Dead, but specifically Yor as Okoye, as the Dora Milaje, as the general, she is just unstoppable, fierce, like nobody else. You truly believe like she's the head of the king god, and nobody's gonna come near her king. And yes, it was kind of almost an unfair fight with Atuma, but she still held her own in that fight really well. It was only that stupid explosion that messed with her. But if she kept fighting, I think she would have found a way to at least damage him properly. Tia is such a problem. She from the first movie, like she's never forever in Wakanda. She's just not satisfied in Wakanda to be in the most advanced nation on the planet. She just has to be out there helping people living like a regular muggle. I don't understand, but that's who she is. But it showed her awesome expertise when the queen trusted her specifically to go and find Shuri alone, track her and find her. And it shows her skill as that war dog that could do it. And she speaks so many other different languages as well, that's why. And then, okay, this is the last, and it's the biggest spoiler of the film. It's a post-credit scene, the first post-credit scene. So really now, especially if you didn't watch, bounce off. But like, okay, so the post-credit scene is Shuri is finally ready to grieve. And she goes to the beach house that Nakia has, because she has a house on the beach, to go and burn the burial shroud for her brother and her mother, or the burial shroud for her mother, so that she can do that grieving ritual and let her mother go. Which is so beautiful, and it's one of those cultural rituals that I really respect in this movie. And while she's sitting down, or after she's done the ritual, Nakia comes down and introduces her to none other than T'Challa's freaking son. That's right. She calls her. She says, "Hey, go say hello to your auntie." Yeah, Chacha. So Nakia's been away all this time because she's been a mother. Like, wow. I knew it as soon as that kid had extra screen time with the ball, looking up at Shuri. I just knew there was something interesting about this kid, and it was definitely one of the possibilities in my head that he was T'Challa's kid. So yeah, there you go. That's the last spoiler in the movie, is that T'Challa and Nakia have a kid. His name is Tucson, I think, or something like that. That's his Haiti name. I thought it was just Haiti, but apparently it's called Haiti. Or is there two different places? I don't know. You guys can let me know. But yeah, so she asks him Kulikai or something like that, or how do they say it? What is your name? Oh, Ungubani. Right? So she says Ungubani, and he tells her that his Wakandan name is T'Challa, son of T'Challa. So his name is T'Challa too. So that's how I guess we're gonna get a continuation of the Black Panther in the future. Future is that there's gonna be a T'Challa, but it's his son that's gonna be the latest Black Panther. And I dig how Ryan tied that up. That story was tied up in a way that we still get the Black Panther in that way. But in the meantime, we have a Queen, we have a Shuri, we have a Black Panther, and the suit looks so cool. It really looks like an amalgamation of T'Challa and Killmonger, but with that snazzy tech, that snazzy, cool design of Shuri. You know, it's like an amalgamation of all three of them that fit so well together and looks so dope. Namor in battle is just an absolute menace, dude, and I loved it. He is just so freaking iconic. And when he goes up in the air with the winged feet and he looks down at you, you're just like, this dude is godly. But he just menaces everybody when he gets into a fight, man. He is literally god tier level. I want to see this dude fight Thor and how he goes up against him in terms of muscle and strength. I want to see him fight the Hulk, yeah, sure, but Thor, even Captain America, I would love to see him fight that one. Just to see if he would dominate those things. But yeah, it's just, he is so cool when he fights, man. And the way that he, like, flies into the air. And he's such a menace because he can cover water, land, and air all together at superhuman levels. So that pretty much makes him unstoppable at like all levels. That's like god tier level. So yes, let's try this up. The best movie of the year, hands down for me, not even lying, not even exaggerating. Really, I can't think of or find a movie that I watched this year that made me feel all these things. Made me bawl my eyes out in the cinema so many times. That is like a warning for you guys who's still going to go see it. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for a lot of tears, for a lot of emotion, for just tear-jerking moments. That's definitely gonna get to you. Even if you don't cry, it's still gonna give you a twinge in your chest. So just prepare yourself for that. But yeah, nothing made me feel this way. Gave us such a cool villain, gave us such an awesome hero arc, but multiple heroes within the story even. And still making the villain as amazing, as intricate, and as vicious as the first one. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand who could say that this is a step down from the first movie. It is a step up on a lot of other movies, especially in Phase 4, but on top of that, a step up for Black Panther. It is an absolute massive, amazing thing to be a sequel to this movie. And I gotta absolutely thank and praise the entire cast and crew of this movie. the writers, the directors, the actors who made all of this such a beautiful, complex tribute to not only Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, the Black Panther, but also to grief as a whole. They did it in such an artful, tasteful, respectful way that I didn't think possible in one whole movie. It is true artistry what they did with the emotional tug lines of this movie. And yes, there's still the comedy. You still get the comedy of Okoye and Shuri. Shuri makes comedy with everybody. And now there's Riri Williams. Like after Shuri got the heart-shaped herb power and she showed it off, Riri's like, she just leads to Okoye and she's like, yo, can I get some of that? And it's just such a light-hearted moment, man. The way that she said it, like, yo, can I get some of that? So yeah, super awesome movie. Absolutely loved it. Go book your tickets. Go watch this thing because it's absolutely flawless. I loved it. I don't care what anybody else says. This is how this movie made me feel. And I'm truly grateful for it, and I will watch it constantly to remind me of what I've lost, but also what I've gained, and what the MCU gained with this movie, and all the cool things and moments it had in it. So in this movie, you can really feel the desperation that a lot of these different nations and all these different kinds of humans around the world have to get their hands on vibranium. The greed that they have for it. Even to a point where the committee members were telling direct characters that even the president has been sanctioning sort of a destabilization of Wakanda just to get their hands on vibranium. And it's corrupting so many people around the world because they just want to get their hands on it and use it for their own purposes. It might not even be necessarily bad things, but because of how detached scientists can be and because of how those mandates can get carried out, especially in terms of the excuse of, well, we were just under orders, as that they could make horrible things out of vibranium just to use them for their own purposes. But at the same time, you also feel their fear of even remotely attacking Wakanda. Because like Everett says, you're contemplating attacking a country that we couldn't fathom their military potential. They can't even begin to understand the military potential or the military output that Wakanda can have. Okay, so that is it from me. That's my Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie review. I hope you dug it. And yeah, of course, do the things, comment and subscribe, please. And I will see you at the next review. Vaya con Dios.